Hey, we got something new. Let's take a listen. Play it, Josh.
Hi, this is Macy. I don't know how you guys speak about race cars for so long. It's just cars going in circles. My son Timmy listens to your podcast, and when we're in the car, and they're swearing. Do race car drivers swear? I don't get it. Thank you.
What? That's our first voicemail. You know where she left that?
Where did she leave that?
Moneylap.com, where they can leave voicemails as well if you're listening right now. If you want to get on this show, moneylap.com, leave us a voicemail just like Macy. And yes, Macy, we fucking swear.
Jeez. Is that who we are now?
That's how we start.
Is that we
these
branding
days.
ourselves that way now?
I don't know. I think she, obviously we're sorry for Timmy and his young years, but we'll try to keep it more PG going forward.
I was as surprised to hear that as any of them, Parker.
I know. I was too. It's just despicable. Also, I want to let all our listeners out there know and the viewers on YouTube. We have seen a lot of growth as of late, but I've been doing some numbers. And I realized, and this is really complex math, so just bear with me for a second, Landon. If every one of our listeners shared this with a friend, either in audio form or YouTube, and thought that friend would love to hear this podcast and shared that episode with them, maybe their favorite one, maybe a clip, that sort of thing, made them into a listener, we would double in the amount of listeners we have.
Are you sure?
I'm not a mathematician. If every single one of them did that, so everyone that listens and watches on YouTube and everyone who listens in audio form, either on Apple or wherever you get your podcast, if they just shared it with a friend that they felt like would like this and become a listener, we would double in the amount that we have.
Did you ask ChatGPT for the simplest way to double our listener
I did.
base? And
that would have been
that's
easier.
what it told you?
No, I actually toiled for the last 6 hours on the whiteboard over here, and this is what I came up with. So I'm pretty proud of it. ChatGPT would have got me there quicker, no doubt. But I'm hoping everyone will go and do that. So go do that. Let's talk about today's show. We are speaking the Cup Series playoffs, and is it correct, the format? We also filled out our brackets. We have new NASCAR schedules that are announced this week, new drivers in Xfinity, how I made a NASCAR race happen, F1 and its PR hype train, which are out of control and their amazing ability at doing it, and how IndyCar Saturday Milwaukee winner talked about how he thought about trying to fund a race for the series. All of that and more. But let's start with, I sort of teased it last week, Landon. I made a race happen. Lime Rock is on the NASCAR Truck Series schedule in 2025. First top 3 National Series race in Connecticut. I think it's going to be one of the biggest events in Lime Rock history and one of the biggest sporting events in Connecticut. I sort of am slightly responsible for that happening. So quite a cool moment.
Yeah, I like how you let us know of that right after you talked about another driver thinking about putting on a race. You're just, slide right into a little self-congratulatory, here's the race that I did help make happen.
Sorry, I'm just stretching my arm to pat myself on the back for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, don't pull anything there.
I try not to. It's pretty cool. I will say, if people didn't see my tweets about it, it all started with a text, April 2021, to Ben Kennedy saying, "Hey man, I'm a part of the ownership group here. Not sure if this is out of line or not, but just curious, how do you make a Truck Series race happen?" And thus started a journey between him.
He
and
never
NASCAR.
responded to that text, but I'm happy that they have a race.
Yeah, he never did. But I feel responsible for it. And the leadership team and everyone ran with it.
Blew it off.
It's pretty cool. I mean, the response was amazing. I don't know if I've seen that much response for a new race. At least, obviously, I was tagged a lot of it. But on Reddit and on Twitter and such, X, whatever you want to call it, there was a lot of great response. So I think it's going to be a pretty big event. My advice to anyone looking to go, buy tickets early, plan out the whole weekend, hopefully find a way to camp or plan a big day out of it because I think it's going to be a huge crowd. So should be a lot of fun. But as always, we start with the PR lap, which is where we talk about ourselves and all the reviews. And Landon, I did race at Darlington this past weekend. One of our favorite tracks. A great track. I was thinking about you in the race, by the way.
I appreciate that. What were you thinking about?
So I'm going through turns 1 and 2 from the start of the race. It's a super hot day. Like, even in practice, the rubber was laying down so quickly. And I'm like, I know what to do here. You got to run that middle line in 1 and 2. Got to keep the right rear on it, right? So I finished 4th in stage 1, but I'm getting way too loose. Even run the middle line. And the patch is changing things. Like, that patch is getting different where I started to see cars running the second groove pretty early. But to do that, you've got to put your right sides up next to the wall, which means you're in the rubber. And stage 2, started destroying the right rear once again. We finished 8th in stage 2. And then we got to stage 3, and it was going to be the longest run, right? And it's super hot, and it's super slick. And I was running actually the apron in 3 and 4 because I've always made that work. It's my favorite lane. Couldn't run the wall because it was just too, I guess, rubbered up and just too slick. It just wasn't working for us. So, but as I'm using that middle lane at times, and I'm actually racing Chase Elliott. He's running the higher lane 1-2. We ran around each other for like 20 laps, me trying to get by him. And I'm trying to save the right rear, and I'm running that middle lane, and it's not working. And I'm like, damn it, Landon. It's not working. That's what I was thinking of you. It's your fault.
Well,
I
you
finished
know what
13th.
is working? Shopping for diecast online at spoilerdiecast.com.
No way.
Are you a race enthusiast looking for high-quality diecast and apparel? Look no further than spoilerdiecast.com, one of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. I'm sorry, Josh just sent me a message. I totally screwed up that transition. It was supposed to be another part. At Spoiler Diecast, they pride themselves on excellent service. All orders ship either same or next day. We are committed to this ad read right now. No more stopping. Ensuring you get your hands on your favorite products in no time. And the best part, Parker,
What?
even better than keeping your right rear tire cool through 1 and 2 at Darlington, they have free shipping on orders over $20. That is right. You can enjoy a smooth and affordable shopping experience with SpoilerDiecast.com. They have over 1,100 unique products currently in stock. NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, some dirt stuff, a lot of good stuff. So they're NASCAR focused, kind of like us, but they, kind of like us, love all motorsports. They have expanded their catalog. They have all kinds of products. They are racing fans just like us. Children who grew up in the Midwest buying diecasts from the basement of a shopping mall. Go to spoilerdiecast.com and do it the modern way and get some really up-to-date inventory for your diecast needs.
That was well done. It was just about one segment too early. But we're going to roll with it. We love it. There you go. We got to keep them on their toes. They don't know when the ad read is going to be dropped in now. That's the new thing.
Do you want me to respond to your Darlington thoughts, or what do you think?
I mean, if you want. I was going there, but then you just went full ad read. So
I think that something is evolving in Darlington a little bit. I think the Denny / Kyle Larson line is evolving into the dominant, fastest way to make time at Darlington.
It didn't work. It wasn't working.
Yeah,
it was worse.
It's what?
It was worse. It was looser. It was wild. Like, everyone was super low on the apron into one. I don't even know why it was working that way.
Yeah,
I kept trying to use, like, in the spring it worked amazing. That's the lane that saved my right rear, and it was amazing. But on this day, you could not. The rubber was so caked in the track, you couldn't run it because you just kicked the right rear out the second you got around it. Yeah, it was
interesting.
weird.
Makes me want to go back and watch it again then, because, I mean, I was watching the Cup race, and Kyle at the end of the race didn't really start making time on Chase until he started running the Denny line in 1 and 2, but it was just too little too late, I thought.
Well, and
he made time at the beginning because of the tires, but once the tires leveled off, he kind of had that 5-lap period where he leveled off and didn't gain any time, and then he started gaining time again when he moved up in 1 and 2.
With that car, I think the less you disturb that underbody, right, which that line does because you don't clip the apron on the entry, I think it's very impactful for them. It's kind of why, like, the the apron doesn't work in 3 and 4 as well in those cars because you disturb it as you cross over the banking sort of angles.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
let's talk about it later. Yeah, let's talk some reviews and such. We didn't have any new Apple reviews, so once again, share this podcast with some friends who want to hear it. Go leave us a review. You'll get on this podcast. We did have some YouTube comments. I'll start with the first one. You do the second. You two are, and Macy would be upset with this. Josh, you'll have to bleep it. F***ing dope. Keep up the hard work, homies. Also, Parker, thank you for keeping the facts straight on the 62 car. He should be in it for his damn self. He did the right thing. That was from
Parker Retzlaff.
Kevin JB7UT. So, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it. Good language.
Oh, and YK David says, I appreciate the straightforward opinions. There is way too much politicking and sugarcoating in NASCAR. Two of my favorite things.
Amen.
Coating it with sugar and politicking it. It's a good
Yeah.
season for politics. It's an election year.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I don't know. It's entertaining for me. I have great election night traditions. I don't know if anybody has election night traditions, but I usually get a couple bottles of wine and make a kick-ass cheese board and just
Wow. Just chill.
fire up all the TVs with all the news stations and watch it unfold. I don't know how we went from that comment to election night traditions, but yeah. You're welcome, YK David, for the straightforward opinions. We're just going to talk about racing. And I have said this to many people that part of what I enjoy about this podcast is that I'm talking about race cars with one of my best buddies in the whole world, and I am pretty sure it doesn't matter to me if anybody even listens, because we have had so many great conversations over tequila about race cars, and I hope it never ends. I hope we never solve it, Parker.
Yeah,
we will
never.
try like hell,
I love that.
but
That's
I
a good point.
hope that we never truly solve it.
And I think I would say I'm in a similar position where I don't really care. I'd like more people too because of more interaction, but other than that, as you put it, the conversations. I would have these conversations anyway. We already text about these conversations.
For
So
30 years, for the 34 years of my life before we started a podcast, we had these conversations one way or another.
at the bar where the best conversations happen.
Yeah.
Let's do the next one. This is an email to friends@themoneylap.com. If you want to send us an email, friends@themoneylap.com. It says, hey, Parker and Landon, it's Chad, a.k.a. Raindog38, a.k.a. Chadolac Ranch 3, and who knows what my other social media names are. I got to watch some MotoGP, Indy, Xfinity, and Cup last week. Great racing all around. Have you thought of covering NHRA too? Ron Capps has asked that as well. Anywho, this podcast has helped me reach back out to the other motorsports. You guys continue to bring a lot of insights and info to other motorsports besides NASCAR, my first love. Parker, I know a win will happen before the end of the year. My money is always on you, but this Saturday, September 7th, while you race at Atlanta, it's my 16-year wedding anniversary. Hope to watch, but not sure what me and the wife will be doing. Of course, watching. Sorry for the long email. You guys rock. If you each could race an IROC race, who are some of the drivers you'd love to race against? Cheers, Chad.
Don't say his whole
I
name.
didn't say his last name.
Because he literally, we got to watch out with this email. I love the friends at moneylap.com email, but people get way more personal in this. Chad, love you, man. Just gave us all your handles and then your first and last name.
But we didn't say his last name. We didn't say it.
It's a good thing that we're white hat hackers
Hey, Josh,
doing it
by
for the
way,
greater good.
way better when you take the email out of photo form and actually put the text so I could read it. Otherwise, I was like trying to read the single smallest typeface on the planet.
You didn't see me put the actual email above it. You were just reading the small. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, no. Totally screwed
Oh, that
up.
was good.
Who
Thanks,
would you race
Chad. I love
against?
the email. Keep sending us emails.
Yeah.
Don't dox yourself in the email, though, because we may just read it on the air.
And we're not editing it. So don't.
And we're not editing
that's
it.
on you.
So if you did it, it's on you. This is, now that I'm following along with the show notes, this is the part of the show where I'm supposed to do an ad read about SpoilerDiecast.com. But I'm going to let Parker continue the show and start talking about NASCAR Cup Series.
Well, before we do that, no, he'd asked the question, who would you want to race against in IROC? Just pick two drivers you'd love to race against in an IROC form.
I want to race against Kenny Schrader again. Does he race IROC? He has before.
He definitely has. There's no doubt.
Kenny Schrader raced in IROC back when it was in IROCs. When, like in an actual IROC. Like the car.
Z28s.
Yeah.
I raced against Kenny Schrader. I beat him. My first ever stock car win. I beat him.
The reason I said Kenny Schrader, my dad was just telling a story yesterday that one time we were at Martinsville and my dad was spotting for me in the Cup Series, which he did for a lot of my Cup starts. And I was younger in my full-time Cup Series career, and I was racing Kenny Schrader for position and just probably sounded like I was beating the back bumper off of him, but not really going anywhere. And Kenny's spotter came over to my dad and took off his headset and put it on my dad's head. And Kenny said, "Roger, it's Kenny." My dad's like, yeah, Kenny. We're racing during this time, okay? I love your son. You guys are good family. You tell Landon if he hits me one more time, I'm going to put him in the fence. Okay, Kenny. Hey, Landon, I just talked to Kenny. He wants you to stop hitting him.
What?
Yes.
That is amazing. What did you think when you heard that? Like, oh, he spoke to his spotter?
I don't even remember the story. I have a worse memory with like this.
That is unbelievable. That's some old school NASCAR stuff.
I do remember. I don't remember the radio part. I do remember the race, and I remember the time on track when I was hitting Kenny because he had his middle finger out the window pretty much the whole time. That I was running into it.
What car was he in then? The 32?
He was in the 32, yeah.
Go fast, yeah. Yeah. Wow. What a legend. Let's talk Cup Series, and not just great stories. But we mentioned at the beginning, Chase Briscoe won to make it into the playoffs in the final race of the regular season. And, now Josh is on me because I didn't answer. We never even answered Chad's question.
I said Kenny Schrader.
All right, so you picked him. Who would I race against? I've raced against Sebastian Vettel. No, I don't want to do that. Gosh, it would be cool. Kimi
Max
Räikkönen.
Verstappen.
Yeah, just
Kimi
do it for the
Räikkönen.
fans.
Kimi
Verstappen
Räikkönen.
and
So
Kyle Larson.
I just almost fell over. No, I don't want to race against Max Verstappen and Kyle Larson. I want to have a chance to beat him. So I want to race Kimi Räikkönen so we can go drinking afterwards. It'd be a great time. All right, we're moving on. We mentioned Chase Briscoe. He won at Darlington. What did we say last week, Landon? Winning is all that matters.
It's all that matters.
Could not have happened. That's it all planned out exactly how we said, basically. You basically had to win to get in the playoffs.
How can you not like what happened in that race? How can you not support that? I mean, I can definitely come up with another scenario that would be just as exciting that didn't involve someone outside the cut line just leapfrogging 3 or 4 spots to win the race, but how can you not be pleased with the outcome of that race? 2 drivers that had to win to get into the playoffs, facing off head to head. What more can you ask for? That was amazing.
I thought it was awesome. I think Chase Briscoe has had a lot of great things happen at Darlington for him when he beat Kyle Busch the last time at Xfinity in an unbelievable duel. And so he obviously has a knack for that place. I think it was huge for him. It's huge for Stewart-Haas Racing, who obviously is shutting down at the end of the year, and he mentioned all 320-plus employees. I think overall, that is what this system has created, moments like that. That doesn't exist, right? That moment right there is, oh, cool, he won a race moment without the playoff system. Mm-hmm. So let's, before we go into everything else, you asked me earlier, how could you not like the playoff system, right?
Yeah, I don't I'm a fan. I mean, I get the frustration, but isn't that sport? Like, part of sports is that the unpredictable can happen, or the the element of surprise creates entertainment, variability. I mean, isn't that part of what makes sports great? It's not random. It's not random.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it might
I
feel
thought-
that way with super
Yeah.
speedway races, but super speedway wins are still not random.
No.
You know, I mean, you'd be okay. I'm not going to call super speedway wins random. They're not wild card races in a sense that it's a coin flip and that they're luck. I don't know. I'm a fan of the playoffs. We just filled out our brackets, and I feel like it's a reset of my brain and my investment in the racing season. Now it's like you're taking a collective, an aggregate of the people who had the best season, the people who are peaking their seasons at the right time potentially, the people who've shown us that they're capable of greatness, in a flash. Can they hang on to that? Guys like Chase Briscoe, it's like he wasn't in the playoffs, but then he won at one of the toughest tracks on the toughest race of the season. Why can't he make it to the top 4? Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
He's in a team that's got the support and is capable of doing it. So I saw notes. I see notes in our show here, and I remember Buescher being criticizing the win in playoff system, which is ironic to me. Like, I don't know how that's possible. I love Chris Buescher. I'm a big fan, but I mean, he's benefited from that system pretty well in his career. So I don't know. It seems a little sour grapes to
I'm
just
sure
criticize.
2016 was it 2016 Pocono that he won on the fog, and that changed. I'm sure that was a pretty big vault in the points from where he was at front row at the time.
Huge.
So
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, here's what I've thought about the playoffs. And I had thought about this week when I saw some of the conjecture and I saw Buescher's comments and that sort of thing, was, to me, the playoff system in NASCAR, and this is really, the only form of motorsports that's done something like this, right? At least closed circuit motorsports, is that if you're paid or have to talk about NASCAR, in a lot of ways, it has been a godsend for broadcast and for people making content in the midweek. Storylines, yeah, that sort of thing. Uh-oh. I broke my video again. Every time I talk about this, the video breaks. All right, we're back. Had to fix some things there. Landon, here's what I was saying. All right, you want to hear it?
I'm here. I'm ready.
Okay. So basically, my thought process was the playoffs has been a revelation, a godsend if you create content around NASCAR or have to talk about NASCAR. And I believe if you drive for a smaller team, it is a huge godsend in the fact that you can vault yourself into a massively important position with just getting a win, right? Mm-hmm. But one thing, and I think as a driver, I loved being in the playoffs last year. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I loved the pressure of it and the way the races happen and what you're focusing on. I thought it was the coolest stuff ever. The only thing I'll say is that from the fan perspective and the blowback I see out there is I don't know if you can make a actual verifiable, analytically put together argument that it has increased interest in the sport, right? Like, if you look at TV ratings and all that stuff, I don't know if it's done that. Now, the last race of the year does have a higher TV rating than most of the races that you have towards the end of the year. So that maybe gives credence to people saying, all right, there's always going to be a championship sort of on the line at this race. I need to tune in, right? So I think that's where some of the argument is that maybe, hey, NASCAR 2004 was bigger than it is in 2024. Okay, but would it have gotten here anyway? Probably, right? Because it just had such a bubble. So I'm not saying that, I guess I'm not saying like people have, that I believe that it hasn't increased. I'm just saying I could see how they have that point of view, that's why it's not loved in that sense, because it is such a departure from what this sport was known and was always about, and what most forms of motorsports are about, which is, every race has almost the same weight, and eventually you get to the last one, and if there is a battle, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably a little short-sighted to just point at that and be like, oh, the sport's gotten smaller in the last 2 decades since the sorry about that, since the playoffs were instituted. I don't think nobody is backing that up with any significant data or argument. No different than I can't back up my support for the playoffs with any data or prove that we've performed the potential shrinkage of the sport.
Yeah.
To me, it's just more of a feel and an energy and a gut, and I guess maybe that makes me no better than anybody that doesn't like the playoffs. To sit here and say, hey, I like the playoffs. I like what it does for this part of the season, the interest in it. I don't think it's as bad of a thing as people say it is.
Yeah. Well, I personally like it for what we're about to do next. And first and foremost, before we get there, Tyler Reddick won the regular season championship by 1 point. So that was pretty close, which is fun. Pretty cool for Michael Jordan to be there and be all excited about it. He had some cool comments. But I think this is where we should talk about our predictions, our bracket, speaking of playoffs.
Now I got to go back to my bracket.
Yeah, you got to get your bracket out. So Josh made us fill these out. Josh, feel free to join in here.
I'm excited for this. This is my favorite part of the season. Is you got to admit this is cool. We're in motorsports and we're filling out brackets. What other motorsport can you say that for?
See, I don't follow any other sports other than motorsports, so it is the only thing I've been closest to this is doing like brackets for golf tournaments.
You're not a big fantasy football guy or anything?
No, I mean I do fantasy football, but I'm terrible at it. I don't really follow it. I don't follow. I thought of this the other day. I might be the only person in NASCAR that also doesn't follow college football or have a college football team, which makes me just weird, I guess.
I don't follow it either, so I guess we're both weird together.
Okay.
So.
How do we do this? What do we say here?
So I guess I'll kind of lead this part of the discussion for you guys. So let's talk about, rather than talking about who makes it, let's talk about why you guys have eliminated the people you have eliminated in each round, and we'll kind of go from there. So Parker, you have chosen in the round of 16 the people who will not advance is Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Harrison Burton, and Ty Gibbs. 3 Fords and 1 Toyota.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Don't really have any reason as to why I picked Ryan Blaney. And he was the champ last year, and I was like, I got to get a big name out. Who would be the biggest one? Ryan Blaney, champion for the year prior. I don't know if I have any other analytical reason to have thought about that one. Brad, if Atlanta doesn't go great for him, I know Bristol is a great one for him, but Watkins Glen, from what I've heard about the tire and that sort of stuff, not feeling a lot of optimism there. Harrison Burton, just looking at their general performance over the course of the season. Yes, they won Daytona, but that's going to be a tough putt. And Ty Gibbs, they have had really great performances like Michigan, but this is the Cup Series playoffs. It's going to take a lot more than that. They're going to have to be perfect. So I think it's going to be tough for him to advance as well. And although he will be really good at Watkins Glen.
Yes.
I know that.
Yes.
And is it my turn?
Yes, you eliminated Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, Harrison Burton, and Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, this sounds insulting. I kind of went with the obvious ones. No surprises in the first round for me, just purely based off of current points, just running order, how they've gone. Out of those bottom 5 drivers, I put my money on Martin Truex to step it up in his experience and championship know-how and teammates who are at the top of their game, and figured the least he can do for me is make it to the round of 12. Ty Gibbs is probably one. Knocking him out in that first round is probably a risky move. I bet you he could advance. I probably could have gone with Keselowski or maybe Suarez to get knocked out. or even Briscoe, right? I've got Briscoe advancing, but I'm like Team Briscoe all the way here. I've got Briscoe going all the way around to 4. I think he's got God on his side. I think he's I've just, I don't know. My heart was with Stuart Haas to take him pretty deep in the playoffs. I've got Kyle Larson going all the way as our champion, even though I think...
Slow down here, buddy. Whoa, buddy.
You are just cutting ahead of...
Yeah. Wow. First of all.
We're going round by round, and you're just over here like...
Oh, we're going round by round? Was this the whole podcast?
Yeah, no, it'll be quick. It'll be quick.
2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Per round.
You know what? Yeah, okay, then. So those are my dropouts. First round is pretty cookie cutter for me. Except I do have Keselowski advancing, and that's not cookie cutter. He's 8th seed, but I have him continuing. I originally thought that maybe he would get bounced, but I think he can step it up for this first round.
Yeah, that's
look at what we're dealing with every time we do this, Josh. It's just unbelievable.
I lay out the rules at the beginning, and he's over here just trying to sell cars on the side of our podcast.
I wasn't listening. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, so for mine, I got Cindric, Bowman, Briscoe, and Burton. I feel like same situation, obvious picks. I don't agree with your guys' Chase Briscoe advancing. I don't think Ford is going to be very focused on a team that's not going to be there next year. And I think when you pull that manufacturer support, it's really difficult to do well over the season long. I think they've done well so far, but I don't think they're going to maintain that. But round of 12, Parker, you have Suarez, Logano, Truex, and Cindric eliminated.
Yeah. So,
Josh, by the way, you might be right, because the only thing that I have to take Chase Briscoe all the way to the round of 4 is turning my hat inside out and putting it on backwards. Like, that's it. But I'm just saying that I believe. Okay?
You know what? That is worth an awful lot.
You said he's got the big fella on his side. That can go a long way. So
I love that. All right, Parker.
So Suarez, I just felt like this is the natural end point. Logano, I feel like he'll find a way into the round of 12, but they've had their ups and downs this year.
I know.
Truex, I think this is where his full-time career in fighting for championships comes to an end, and Cindric, similar to Logano, don't think they quite have the muster to get to the round of 8. There's no science to any of this, by the way. I did this in about a minute, so it was real gut. It was real
I watched him
reactions.
do it.
I think that I should be taking Logano to the round of 8, but I'm not. I have Chase getting bounced. I have Logano getting bounced. I have Suarez getting bounced, and I have Truex also failing to advance to the round of 8. I think Logano is one that, yes, I'm with you, Parker. I think he's had a not a typical Logano season, but he's another one of those just championship caliber guys that, in my mind, he just, he might have an up and down season or whatever, but then you get in the playoffs and he's just at least good for the round of 8. At least, right? He's one of those guys. I might have to change this and put him in. I don't know. Maybe I won't. But
Now it's locked.
We're recording, so you're locked in now.
The picture's locked, buddy.
Yeah,
as they'd say in Hollywood.
Okay.
So
then there it is. Logano's out for me, not making it to the round of 8, but he probably could and should. I have Keselowski continuing.
Yeah.
I have Briscoe continuing.
Okay, let's slow down there, buddy. Hey, it's just who you have knocking out.
Yeah.
Right? What is with you in rules today?
I don't know.
I'm gonna just cut in before he tells us who he has in his F1 bracket. So I
have a Super Bowl prediction soon or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I have Chase Elliott getting knocked out in the round of 12. I don't know what it is. I don't see Chase Elliott getting as far as everyone else. That is my
one. God.
But it's also the round that has Talladega in it, and it's also got the Charlotte Roval. And I feel like, I don't know, Chase Elliott hasn't been particularly impressive to me on the road courses like he was. He went on that string for a bit and he just fell off. Don't think that's gonna last. I don't think that's
the track attack car was no longer.
It no longer worked out. Track
the
attack.
Next gen kind of changed that for him.
Yeah, exactly. Ty Gibbs going
I heard
out.
something about that the other day, by the way.
What's that?
Those track attack cars were doing a lot of testing, apparently.
Oh, interesting.
Testing or just running for customers?
Running for customers that particularly worked at Hendrick Motorsports. I don't know.
Interesting.
Odd. Yeah, interesting. Anyway.
Martin Truex Jr., obviously same situation, getting knocked out. And Daniel Suarez, I think he does great at Atlanta, gets himself to the round of 12, but gets eliminated yet again. Parker, your round of 8. I'll let you read it because apparently Landon has changed the rules on how we read our brackets here.
Yeah,
you tell us.
Yeah, we'll speed this up. So I'm knocking out in the round of 8. I'm sorry, Christopher Bell. He's been awesome, but I don't see him getting to the round of 4. I got Willie B out. William Byron not making it to the round of 4. Chase Briscoe. I had him going to the round of 8. Doesn't make it to the championship 4, but it was a hell of a run, my man. And Bowman gets to the round of 8. Doesn't find himself in the championship 4. Landon, now you can tell us yours and particularly any other thoughts you have about life and the meaning.
I'm going to. Doesn't matter what you say. I have. So you just want to know who goes from the round of 8 to the round of 4?
Who you have knocking out?
Yes. Who are you eliminating in the round of 8? Who does not advance? Who are we interviewing at the end?
Christopher Bell, I have eliminating. Tyler Reddick, I have eliminating. Ryan Blaney, I have eliminating. Brad Keselowski, I have eliminating. None of those I like to eliminate. I mean,
Wow.
maybe Brad, I think, is someone that I think is fitting for the round of 8, but not the round of 4. But Blaney could just as well be the champion again. Reddick could just as well be the champion for me. Christopher Bell could just as well be the champion. And then if you look at the drivers that I have making it to the round of 4, right? Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin. Those guys just as well be the champions. So we'll talk about the round of 4 next. But dude, I'm so confused by what you guys are trying to do.
It's so simple. Just
it's like
tell
I'm
us who
supposed
gets
to talk. I'm
eliminated.
only supposed to talk about who's getting eliminated, and
Yes.
I
Yes,
can't.
because then by the time you get to the round of 4, you can be like, here's who I have, and this is the champ.
Yes.
Well, because with that logic, but it comes back around to me. I'm only allowed to talk about who gets eliminated from the round of 4, and
No,
then I gotta
because at the round of
talk
4, you
about who
can
gets
say who's
eliminated
in it.
from the round of 1.
Yeah.
No.
In the off season, we're firing
sense.
Kyle
If
Larson.
there's a single person, if there's a single listener that has still been able to follow along with this, my God, you deserve an award. Please
If,
let us
you know what? If there's a single person that empathizes with me, that understands this confusion, let me know.
So
if I'm on an island by myself, that's fine.
So
You can tell me. Leave it in the comments. Write a review. Don't make it a 5-star review, but write a review and be like, "Yo, Landon, you are."
No, it has to be. We only want 5 stars.
Yeah.
So give us a comment on YouTube.
Or
Yes.
somebody write an Apple review for God's sakes, because it's been 3 weeks. Somebody write an Apple review, 5 stars, and just be like, "Hey, Landon, I'm with you, man. I have no idea what Parker and Josh were doing there."
you want to talk about you putting Austin Dillon getting his appeal back and making it to the round of 5 in there? No,
There's still time.
Yeah. I got William Byron getting eliminated at the round of 8, which I feel is quite an upset thing. Parker, I'm with you on that one. Bell out, Blaney out, and Keselowski out. And Parker, now we are here. Who is your round of 4?
And I'm going to say my champion because we're going to speed this up.
Yep.
No, who gets eliminated from the round of 4?
No. Tell us the champ.
All right. So I got Larson in there, Hamlin, Reddick. Hamlin's going to race against his own car, and Chase Elliott. But the champion, as I always say, because it's his year, every year until it is not, it is Denny Hamlin's year. He will be the champion, beating his own car. They'll finish 1-2. It's his year. All right. Landon, you can now just talk.
Just
wax
tell
poetic
them
about
your
everyone.
thoughts.
I have Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, William Byron in my round of 4. There are 5 other drivers that should be in that round of 4, but those are the 4 I picked. I'm picking Kyle Larson to be the champion over my early season prediction of William Byron. But if I could, I don't know. Maybe I'll do another bracket and pick William Byron.
Yeah.
I can't pick it. I can't. My heart is with Chase Briscoe. I've got the hat on. I got the rally cap on, inside out and backwards and upside down for Chase Briscoe all the way to Phoenix. But it's just, I don't think it's going to work at the end. However, he did get his first career win at Phoenix.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
that could be in this car.
In this car. He did. 2022.
So there's a chance that rally cap stays on until the checkered flag flies.
There you
Love
go.
Love it.
My round of 4, pretty simple. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick. And what's this? Oh, Logano snuck in. And Logano's going to do, and I haven't mentioned him yet in my entire bracket, he's going to do what he always does in the playoffs, and that is absolutely light the world on fire. You guys have been so focused on his recent performance, you've not realized that he's been in the sim doing every single race, every single round, building out setups, and Logano is going to blow the world apart and win the championship.
That is a fair. That is a very fair argument.
Yeah, that's an intelligent one too. I'm going to give you that. Yep.
That's my argument for why Joey Logano. Oh, I love that. I love that perspective, and I kind of hope that it's true because it's like, okay, guy got himself in the playoffs early, whatever.
Yep.
Been
Well
working
done.
on the playoff setups ever since.
I mean, it wasn't that early. It was Nashville, but I would not be surprised by Paul Wolf and him pulling off something like that. They
I
do
mean,
that all
that's
the
the
time.
kind of strategy that a former championship duo, right, makes.
But you could say they've had the 3 Penske cars were locked in fairly early this year. Mid-season, right? Ford, we started off the season. Think about this. We started off the season with everyone saying, like, where's Ford? Oh, my gosh, they're way out to lunch, that sort of thing. And now they have the most cars in the playoffs. They've got 6.
Wow.
So, and remember when Penske went on that just absolute tear for a while. Definitely.
Solid all around.
Definitely, yeah. Well done, Josh. That's a good idea.
I love how it's like you just pointed out that Ford has the most cars in the playoffs, yet you didn't put a single one in the Final Four, and
None.
the only Ford I put in the Final Four is a team that's going out of business. So it really shows our intelligence or faith in the Ford camp.
Come to Money Lap for your predictions filled with analytics,
guys know what they're talking
statistics,
about.
and just thorough analysis of which you can find nowhere else, mostly done just by gut. That's what we do here. Well, that's fun. I'm glad we did that. We'll see how those pan out. Let us know in the comments on YouTube what your brackets may be, or if you agree or disagree with our picks, and how. And if any of you listening could have kept up with that, I applaud you. That's amazing. So, one thing we didn't mention before we move out of the Cup Series, they did release the new schedule for 2025. NASCAR's going to Mexico. We did discuss that. I mean, not many other massive surprises. I think the one thing is I saw some conjecture about this, that they basically go 28 straight weeks in the season, which is a grind. That's a big one.
Jeez.
So, yeah, it's the longest in the modern era, basically, of successive races. Godspeed, all of you in the Cup Series. Godspeed.
What's your guys' thoughts on Daytona being the cutoff race for the regular season instead of Darlington?
I like Daytona. I've always thought I was disappointed it wasn't this year. I love that. I think it's fun. I think the if you want in this system with all the storylines it gives you, and then to make Daytona the cutoff is just epic to me. I love it as a viewer, as a guy who's mostly been on pit road for that event every time. I think it's awesome. Why not? Full chaos.
I'm with you on Daytona. Cutoff, close to the cutoff, one way or another. I think that I'm really loving on Darlington right now, and so I actually don't like it as a first round playoff race. I like it being a cutoff or even close to a cutoff race. I think I could see a Darlington Richmond swap there. Not on the calendar though. Darlington has to be
Labor Day.
Labor Day, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be that weekend. It just fits. It's just right.
But either way, I mean, it's solid schedule. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm
let's move to
surprised that there's no off week between the Mexico race.
It's aggressive,
But
it's not that far. It's not as far. But yeah. There's. What are you insinuating, Landon?
I don't know. I'm not insinuating anything. It's just It's just funny sometimes when, there's new venues long ways away. You see off weekends there, and it's like, no, we're going from Michigan to Mexico City to Pocono.
That's
what
actually
we're
a
doing.
pretty normal pattern for people. You leave Brooklyn, Michigan, go to Mexico City, go to Poconos. That's a pretty normal summer
Let's
vacation.
hope that we don't have a rain out on Sunday in Michigan.
Yeah, that would not be fun. Which it's only done every single year we've been there recently. So, all right, let's move into the Xfinity Series. Some driver announcements. Brandon Jones was announced that he'll be going back to Joe Gibbs Racing for 2025 after things haven't gone as well as you hope probably at Junior Motorsports. Also announced was that Brandon Jones and Sammy Smith will be swapping their crew chiefs this week as the 8 tries to get into the playoffs, and so does the 9, of course. 8's right behind me in points, but a fair amount of points behind us. I think 30 points behind us, give or take.
I think 34 behind you.
34. I even short-sold myself. Christian Eckes will be driving the number 16 for Colleague in the Xfinity Series in 2025. So that's a big deal. AJ Allmendinger moving up. He's been super successful in trucks for Christian Eckes, and now he makes the move to the Xfinity Series. Not doing what we've seen recently out of many of these truck series drivers, which is skip Xfinity altogether and try to go directly to Cup. He has chosen to do this. I do believe there's a pathway to Cup for him there. I know in talking to him, he had been talking to Cup teams this year, but wasn't enthusiastic about it and decided to do the Xfinity thing. So I like that choice. It's good. It's good when young drivers decide to maybe take the slower path, but be ready when you get right. One thing that happened this weekend, though, Sheldon Creed, man, I wasn't up there, so I couldn't see it in real time. But your heart ripped out once again. Had the race won, have a late race caution, doesn't have a fast pit stop, gets it taken away, has, 11 second place finishes now? Just brutal.
Brutal. I mean, especially that track. He's so dialed in at Darlington right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know how hard he's worked on that. I've worked on Darlington with him in my career and in our time together. So he had a kind of an interesting quote about taking a chance on himself, brought all the money he could to the team that he's at, literally not even making $1 this year. So, which pretty much implies there's maybe just enough money was brought to the table that there's no salary or no percentage that the team just said, we'll put you in the car, but you're not getting paid.
Which is pretty much a trend, by the way, at Joe Gibbs.
Doesn't surprise me.
The drivers the last couple of years, every driver I've spoken to that goes there, they don't get paid. They usually have maybe a bonus in the top 5 or for wins.
Right.
That's it.
So you think about it, the team doesn't really. There's no benefit for the team to pay the driver in Xfinity.
Nope.
The driver, the team's prize money is about, for a team like JGR where they're going to finish 8th to 1st in points, depending on what driver they get in their car, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the prize money swing from 8th to 1st in points?
It's double, I believe, isn't it?
So,
basically?
how many hundreds?
Maybe not
thousands?
even double, but it's like $1 million. I'd say an Xfinity car on average does about $1 million in that area in prize money.
Right. So
per
it's
year.
between $1 million and $1.5 million.
Yeah, something like that.
That's not double,
1.7.
but so.
Yeah. No, I think actually.
There's a $500,000 in prize money.
Say it's $1 million.
So there's a $500,000 in prize money to be gained between 8th and 1st in points, but and you're talking about a total amount of prize money of $1 million to $1.5 million. Well, the amount of money it takes to get a full-time ride, you have to bring probably $4 million. Bring $4 million, right? So the team is kind of putting it on the drivers to say, find your own way to make money. Just bring us $4 million.
Yeah.
Right. And I suppose, if you win races or if you really exceed expectations, if you win championships, win races, the team themselves might earn another couple $100,000 or $500,000 total in prize money. So there's probably some kind of share in that for Sheldon, or for any driver in that position. But other than that, I mean, for a driver, if Sheldon were to bring the money that it takes to race in that car and just run 8th in points, well, that's the team's not. There's nothing in it for the team, right? There's other drivers out there that have $4 million that would be happy to drive that car. So the team's not going to pay Sheldon a salary and some high percentage of the the winnings just to do what they can do with another driver anyways.
And I think it's important to point out that it's how, for the driver and what the team's position is. Okay, if you're a sponsor, say you have a sponsor, right? And just say it's, Bob's Soda Pop or something. And their position would be, hey, we need $4 million. If you want to make money, your sponsor should pay you some salary to represent the sponsor, whatever, right? Here's a PSA, that sort of thing. Because they do hold all the cards, the teams, especially a team like Joe Gibbs Racing, which is almost a guarantee, as you put it, to be really fast, to be in great equipment, to be in a good position. They hold the cards in that sense, and the financials just are, have gotten a bit out of whack where you can't run a competitive Xfinity car off the prize money. It's not going to happen, right? And the difference between what it costs to run it and what you make in the series is so large that it's just not worth it. So
the teams do not think of driver salary in their operating budget.
No,
they just don't. That's not even in conversations that I've heard about the Cup teams finding spending caps, right? And agreeing on a spending cap is exclusive of the driver's salary. They're not including driver compensation in whatever spending cap happens, right? Yep. So that just, to me, is a little bit of a peek into the mindset of how the teams operate. Good thing or bad thing, I don't know. I mean, it's just how it is. And maybe it's because driver salaries and what the driver needs to make can be so variable, because you can have a driver who has no sponsorship, but he's the driver you want and you have sponsorship. So you find a way to pay for it, and then you figure out how to pay your driver. Or you have a driver that brings all the money, and so you're not really – there's no negotiating over salary with the driver because he's the one bringing the money. So you're kind of just saying to the driver, hey, here's the net amount of dollars that we need to have to operate the car no matter who's driving it, right? So then anything you want to make is above and beyond that. So Mr. Driver, just bring us the net $4 million, and if you want to make $500,000 driving, then you need to come up with $4.5 million.
Yep.
Or don't. I don't know.
Or don't. Yeah.
Right.
Or do it
but
with the
$4 million is what we need.
Yeah. We need $4 million, and whatever you do between them is up to you. I have mixed thoughts. I mean, I think it's just drivers, and I think we're seeing this in the Cup Series. There's just been a continual devaluation of the driver, and I think the driver was looked at or on a pedestal for a long time, and that has disappeared. And this is going to be an interesting time for especially in the Cup Series. I've talked about and alluded to it on here, but it's really the devaluation of a driver services is a definite thing that's happened, and there's no denying it, and it's real, and I don't know where it stops. So I think, Xfinity, this has always been the case, and, you have the mix of, as you put it, if someone wants that specific driver, the driver has a bit of leverage there. They have the sponsorship. Hey, okay, how much do you want to be paid? That sort of thing, and that becomes a traditional deal. But it is, I think this sort of thing is not uncommon, and it's going to continue to become more common. And that's the nature of the financials of how this is all set up right now, and the teams hold an incredible amount of power. So we'll move on from that. Obviously, the Xfinity schedule came out as well. They'll be going to Mexico. So that's kind of fun. And I don't know if there's any big things there. Obviously, Portland is still on there. So that's a far one for all those teams. And I think, how many road courses are we at in Xfinity now for next year? Oh, Rockingham's on there too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Rockingham. Yeah. That's a cool one. Oh my gosh, I love Rockingham. I haven't seen much of it since it's been repaved. But that is an awesome. That track before it was repaved, I don't know now, but I'm assuming if they kept it very similar, was amazing. That place, I won there in ARCA. I'm on the Rock, and there was I could in my mind literally feel every bump from the start finish line through 1 and 2. How'd you had to put your left front tire, get turned down for exit 2, every the little places you need to put your left front and your right front through 3 and 4 to lock it into the banking rubber. I did so many laps there of testing with Penske, and obviously won there in ARCA, and just had so many laps that place is near and dear to my heart. And I've always thought it was really funny how when you're coming down from Charlotte and you go on the Freedom Highway or whatever, and you get to that fork in the road and you literally go right to go to Darlington, you go left to go to Rockingham. And I always thought that was kind of funny. So, did you run there much? You're muted. Oh my God. What is wrong with this guy?
I only tested at Rockingham. I never actually raced there.
Okay. Well.
Yep. So it was a good. I guess my career achievement for Rockingham, as far as Rockingham's concerned, is I did a 500-mile race there by myself, testing for Ganassi.
I did one of those at Nashville. I mimicked a whole Bristol race when Penske was having all those issues with the fuel injection system. We went and mimicked the cautions and everything of the Bristol race to try and get it to do the same thing. So essentially 500 laps at Nashville. Yeah, those were long days. Long days. Did you ever question for you. When you're doing that, sometimes I'd be in these long runs, 40-lap runs, and I would start to imagine Tony Stewart was trying to chase me down the back, chase me down for a win in this run, or to take the lead away, because I was I have to come up with something or I'm going to lose my mind out here. So I would imagine scenarios. I was racing other people in the Cup Series because I had to do something to be hey man, you got to stay in this. You can't wander here.
So believe it or not, in my experience, as for drivers, we always talk about loving tracks that have lots of tire fall off and, saving tires and things like that. For a test driver, those are the worst tracks to do long runs on. The best tracks to do long runs on, where you're doing 50, 80, 100 lap long runs, are the tracks that have no tire fall off, repeatable laps, just over and over and over again. And that's when you can truly hone in on your skills and your consistency, and know when you make good changes and bad changes to your driving style. An example for me was this is another Ganassi test. We tested at Gresham Motorsports Park in Georgia, and we were doing 80-lap runs.
Oh my gosh!
I'm sorry, that was for Hendrick, and I can't remember if it's Hendrick or Ganassi now. Either way, it was one or the other. And but the track was fresh pavement. You could run identical 80-lap runs. There was only 2 or 3 tenths of fall off, and that was a ton of fun. I could do that all day long. I could do those for the rest of my life. That was so much fun, because you could do one run after the next and truly get an idea of what you did right, what you did wrong. But doing a 500-lap race by yourself at Rockingham, where the tire fall off was a second and a half over a course of 35 laps, it was oh my gosh. You'd do one thing and you'd lose a half second, and then you'd never get it back, and it was just oh my gosh, I feel like a horrible driver.
Did you get the curves? Because you would do the 30, 40-lap run, and then we'd overlay them, and so I could see how, which one was faster or not, right? And you would see and start to try and I would be adding up each lap and thinking am I ahead of the curve, below the curve?
I'm sorry, but I don't know if you heard me. This was a 500-lap race. We didn't stop for analysis. Okay, I didn't get out of the car for a 500-lap race. I would pull down pit road, and they would jack the car up on pit road.
No.
Offer me a drink of water.
No. No.
And change tires, fuel it up, and then continue.
Were your stops at least competitive? Were they 13-second stops, or were?
No, they weren't. They didn't have a pit crew. It was the test team. Just did it. The pit stops were maybe
the same thing at Nashville.
2 minutes. Yeah. But I did not get out of the car. No.
No, I know the feeling. Yep. No, don't. The only thing that was cool about back then was the horsepower, but that's it. Oh man. All right. Obviously the truck schedule was released. We talked about it. Lime Rock's on there. It's gonna be amazing. Go check it out if you're here. That's gonna be June 28th. I hope to be there. Hope to be racing in it. We'll see. I don't know how that'll all work out, but I hope I can be there. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a cool one. I feel like, as I said, I feel like I made it happen. Hey,
Yeah.
before we go to F1, I did see something, and just to step outside of racing for a second, but I thought this was interesting because we can bring it back to motorsports. So there was this news announcement that the Broncos' edge rusher, Baron Browning, will receive $522,720 payment after his IPO closed, which is an initial public offering, on a sports stock market startup called Vestibule. Browning, who will make $3.1 million this season, will forego 1% of all future NFL earnings. So he basically sold stock in himself for 1% of his future earnings. Now, I don't know if I've seen this in traditional sports as much, but in motorsports, this has gone on forever. So especially in the open wheel world, for years, drivers have taken on investors, especially trying to go to F1, which has massive payoffs. You know, for years in the what would it be? Oh my God, I killed my camera again. So anyway, we've seen this in motorsports for years, especially in the F1 world, where there's such a high payoff. And for years, you know, if you look in the 90s and into the early 2000s, you know, F1 driver salaries went really high. Drivers are making $10, $20 million. And so, you know, the cost to get there could be $5 million, $8 million. And so they would literally take on investors who had a cut of their future earnings. We've seen this with open wheel drivers in IndyCar as well. Justin Wilson was a famous story. He actually, I believe, was on the London Stock Exchange at one point and sold shares himself. But I thought this was interesting. I don't know if we've seen this as much in stock car racing. You know, I know there are some drivers that have come from the open wheel world. I believe McDowell was one of them as well. They've had a similar situation. Who else was out there? Alexander Rossi was one. There's been numerous.
Yeah, and I mean, golfers are pretty famous for doing it. To my knowledge, there's golfers that generate investors. The problem with doing it in a race car driver, and we've talked about this time and time. Actually, you could just rewind to the earlier part of this podcast. It's not a very smart investment, financially, to try to back a race car driver and only guarantee it by their future earnings. Mm-hmm. The real way that race car drivers are getting backed right now, and it doesn't happen often, but there's a few cases of it, and they're not publicized, are Cup drivers or Xfinity drivers whose financial backers are investing in the teams or the charters or the operations of the team somehow. That's the only financially sensible way to do it. Because as we've discussed, NASCAR drivers right now are just simply not making enough money to justify what it costs to guarantee a NASCAR driver a ride.
Yep.
So
Well said.
it would take $15 to $20 million to guarantee that your driver has a ride for the next 5 years.
Yep.
Right? And then they will probably never make $20 million in their career, let alone be able to siphon off 10%, 20%, 30% of it back to their investor.
Yeah.
So the only way that it makes sense, and you have drivers that the only way it makes sense is some kind of charter, and they get involved in the charter. You know, we know that Justin Haley's uncle, Todd Braun, has been involved in the background, you know, or has been known to own the Spire charter early on, sold it to Colleague. You know, there hasn't been a lot of talk about him lately, but like you can see also Justin's career has followed that charter, right? Mm-hmm. Drove for Spire, drove for Colleague. You know, now he's driving for Rick Ware Racing, and who knows, like the next time you hear the name Todd Braun and Justin Haley in the same sentence, it could have to do with a charter moving around or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there's other drivers as well that maybe hasn't been publicized, but have been at least been rumored or in conversations that like, oh, here's a driver who's in Xfinity who has great financial support, and their financial support was smart enough and savvy enough to think, hey, I'm going to put my name in the hat for buying this charter for a team that's potentially selling or something like that to guarantee my driver some leverage at the table when it comes to getting a ride.
That's the game. Well, I thought it was interesting. Good point. Let's talk F1 for a little bit. So McLaren was duped this past weekend by the team that usually doesn't do big strategy things. That was Ferrari, who duped them, beat them, staying out. Charles Leclerc wins at Monza. I think there's few things cooler in F1 than a Ferrari winning at Monza. Seeing the fans go wild and the Tifosi just freak out the whole last couple laps is amazing. But one thing McLaren didn't do as well was swap Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri's positions at the end of the race, as Lando Norris is is closing this gap on Max Verstappen for the title. And McLaren had said during the race, papaya rules, basically, which is their rules of engagement between their two drivers, which means essentially that they can race, but there is some rules around that of what they can and cannot do. But they have this sort of thought process of not choosing a number one. I don't get that, because you got a guy who is going up against a clear number one at another team, and if Red Bull's in the same position, you better believe that Perez is swapping with Max Verstappen at any point they can. And I know team owners are not fun, and they're not fun for fans, but this is the game, and we've talked about it often, but just kind of odd to not do that swap when they had the opportunity at the end of the Monza race. And I guess maybe they figured that Piastri could run down Leclerc, but it became pretty obvious about 3 laps ago that wasn't going to happen unless Leclerc had like a catastrophic failure of the tire, which maybe would have happened because he went further on the tires than anyone else. But I still think, that's giving up valuable points as they go against Red Bull here, who seem to be cratering a little bit, and but at any moment could potentially find the upgrades they need and find that speed again. So I thought that was an odd choice by them, and something they might look back at the end of the season if they're not able to win the title and think, maybe we should have done that.
Have I made any grand claims or positions, hot takes on team orders in F1 on this show?
I've always said you need to choose a number one. I don't know what you've said. I can't remember. You're testing my memory. Come on here.
I don't know
what do you think we got going on? What do you think? I'm an encyclopedia of your thoughts?
I saw a clip on Instagram Reels or something about Will Buxton kind of was going off on McLaren about it. I don't know if you saw the same one.
No, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure that I am with you, and I am on the side of looking at McLaren and going, what are you doing? This is like once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to write the greatest F1 World Championship story ever told. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, now is not the time to be a motorsports purist.
Zach Brown does love motorsports. He loves all forms of it. He does drive a lot of vintage stuff, and he is involved in almost every form of motorsports, so I could see that for sure. But, yeah, it's not the time. You got to win here. You got to take down – you could take down Red Bull and Max Verstappen, a dynasty, at the top of their game, and you have found something speed-wise that has allowed you to be in this position. Go get it. Go take it. The Constructors' Championship now is very tight. It's 446 points for Red Bull, 438 for McLaren, and 407 for Ferrari. They're all still in it. So that's tight, and I get that. I mean, that's why you have, that's the two cars. You both want to be competitive, but when you're basically guaranteed second and third, put it in your best order, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. I think it's an unforced error on their part. Maybe not. Maybe they're not thinking big enough.
Maybe.
I mean, is that literally a team that has not even realized yet the opportunity that could be in front of them?
When is the last time McLaren was even in the discussion for a driver's title / a constructor's title?
Lewis Hamilton?
Well, that would be 2008. No, they won. when Button was there in 2012, 2011, they were maybe in the conversation. You're testing my memory, but that would have been the last era, the Jensen Button 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere in that era, 2009. Mm-hmm. They would have still been, but it's basically been over a decade, I would say, for sure. So maybe they're rusty. I mean, all the people there are basically new from that era, but maybe a little rusty,
Could be.
Yeah, they're not thinking big. They're not thinking, wait a second, we could win this thing. We got a shot. Come on, boys, let's go. They're now making it interesting, though, and it has turned into a really good F1 season suddenly. This late in the summer and now post-summer, we've been given a bit of a gift in the F1 world that was looking beginning of this year like a Max Verstappen Red Bull runaway once again. So that
which
is
we weren't going to be mad about.
No, because greatness is greatness. You weren't going to be mad about it.
No, I wasn't going to be mad about it.
Yeah, I like to see competition. I like to see it be competitive. I like to see multiple winners. One guy who will not be racing at the next F1 race is Kevin Magnussen. He receives a one-race ban, the first time in F1 since this basically penalty point system has been implemented. I honestly believe when I saw that, I was like, there is no more fitting driver for the one-race ban than Kevin Magnussen, because I don't think there's many other drivers who give less of an than that guy. So I was like, rock on, my man. Sure thing. So, go out in a blaze of glory. It has not been announced that he's has a ride for next year. Why not leave him thinking with a little bit of history? Hey, I was the one guy who's been banned for penalty points. I love that. One thing I wanted to get into, I mentioned at the beginning of this. Mm-hmm. I was sending you some of these, but Kimi Antonelli, who was announced as the second driver at Mercedes for next year, replacing Lewis Hamilton, this young 18-year-old kid, basically this is Toto Wolff's attempt at saying I've basically found the Max Verstappen 2.0, which just has ego written all over it, which we can get into that another time. Nonetheless, he did one lap in free practice 1, and on his second lap, crashed massively, causing about $1 million worth of damage. The PR hype train from this has been one of the more fascinating things I've ever seen, not just in motorsports, particularly maybe in sports in general. And that is from Toto Wolff saying that we saw some cornering speeds that were exceptional, right? And I'm like, okay, but he crashed. I was like,
it usually happens right before
something big happens. And then I've seen multiple of these like pseudo great F1 media sources and that sort of stuff being like breaking down the cornering speeds versus Lewis Hamilton and all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, time out. That guy crashed. I'm like, the other guy, who's the 7-time world champion, didn't crash. Maybe because he wasn't trying to go that fast.
I think if you could recover the data from destroyed computer systems, I might be able to show you some examples of world record pace that I was on before I crashed as well. We're really just teasing. I appreciate. First of all, I appreciate just the absolute stan of their own driver. So you know what? Good for that kid. He's got a team behind him, and they believe in him. So that's pretty cool. And I got some respect for that.
Hold on, but also I've never seen this from whatever this Grand Prix Instagram. At Ascari, his cornering speed was 190 kilometers, 176 kilometers on his fastest lap. What? Like, so he was going too fast. I just don't. I mean, this is
what happens right before you wreck.
I was like, to the point, I was like, hey, I hit the wall in qualifying at Indy this year. I was actually 1 mile an hour faster than Cole Custer, who sat on the pole. Huh? Why? I was going too fast. I went over the grip level that was in the corner. Now I could put out an Instagram post and be like, well, at the center of that corner, I was 1 mile an hour faster than anyone else, including Cole Custer, who sat on the pole. But I crashed. Anyway, Moving on. I think it's some of the most ridiculous stuff, and only the F1 PR train could create. And Toto really has a lot of them in his pocket, and he's got, this is a tall task. I just think this is a very interesting choice of all the people that are out there to pick a 18-year-old kid for the Mercedes Grand Prix team, which is one of the most coveted top teams there is. This is a big one. So, last thing in the oatmeal world, IndyCar. We mentioned at the top. Pato O'Ward, who won on Saturday at Milwaukee, spoke very openly about IndyCar not getting a race at Mexico since NASCAR announced their race in Mexico City. He went into a bit of a tirade, and a lot of the quotes I read, including mentioning that he was like, look, I looked at trying to fund it myself. He's like, but I can't put $5, $6, $7 million worth of capital out there right now, which I thought was an incredible quote. He basically went after the leadership team for not getting it done. It has been a bit of a mess between who actually was representing IndyCar, and apparently Jenna Fryer's article pointed out that the promoters who also promote the F1 race in Mexico City were as shocked as anyone to learn that IndyCar was actually interested and had been reaching out to have a race. So I thought all this was pretty fascinating to watch unfold. The last thing was Mark Miles, who's the head of IndyCar, the IndyCar series. Basically, their most popular driver, who's Pato O'Ward, said he's not famous enough in Mexico to have a race yet.
Interesting.
Which is a weird comment to make about one of your most popular driver.
I do not like that comment.
No, that was
is
a weird
like
one.
Just reeks of blaming somebody else, not taking responsibility, not admitting anything. I think that Jenna Fryer's comment that her tweet was kind of interesting, where she feels like there's a smart potential solution of doing like a Larson-Pato swap for that weekend, because IndyCar races at Gateway on NASCAR Mexico weekend.
Interesting.
So maybe, what if Pato could jump in the 5 Cup car, Larson hops in the McLaren Indy car, and you got a little bit of a swap, give them some playoff waivers, and let's be on our way. I don't think that
Why
NASCAR,
would NASCAR do
actually, I don't think NASCAR should do that.
Yeah.
I think NASCAR would greatly benefit from Pato coming to Mexico and driving an extra car in that race.
Yeah.
I don't think NASCAR needs to offer a swap to let their driver.
I don't see it. I don't
Anyways,
see it.
That's good stuff. Interesting story.
Yeah.
I hope that Pato can find a NASCAR ride, and that would be pretty cool.
If it would all
to
work out,
see.
but you got the Zach Brown basically said he would love it to happen, but unfortunately there is the conflict, and he won't let him miss a race.
Yeah, but
So-
Zach Brown is a businessman
Yeah.
that thinks
Yeah.
bigger than just IndyCar. He is not an IndyCar team owner. He is an international motorsport team owner. And if Zach Brown in his brain can justify pulling Pato out of an IndyCar for a race in St. Louis
Yep.
to go to Mexico and race a NASCAR race with, what's their color again?
Who?
Orange?
Papaya.
Papaya. A papaya-colored cup car? Oof. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be.
Well, we
I
kind of
think
saw
that
it
he would.
with the Larson Hendrick Motors.
I think if
team.
there's any IndyCar team owner that would be willing to do that, that's your guy right there.
I love that. That would be cool. Oh my gosh. We've had so many technical difficulties on this episode that we actually had a guy who's won a race down in Mexico in the green room, waiting this entire time, patiently, just pinged me. Kyle Busch, my man, we are not going to have enough time because of all these technical difficulties on my side. We're going to get that fixed for next time, dude. We're so sorry. I just can't believe us. We're just terrible at this. Anyway, that's the Money Lap. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening or watching. If you want to be heard on this show, go to moneylap.com to leave us a voicemail. Be funny, be irreverent, or be insightful, but don't be dumb. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us grow. And if you're listening, please leave us a 5-star review to be featured on this show. Follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll see you there.